Hello again, patrons. This video I'm just putting together just to let you know what plans I have for the next 2 years. They're quite extensive, actually, because I've nearly completed now as far as I can go with this, as in upgrades. And judging by the comments I've been receiving, people would like to go, well, a little further, as in a better machine, a better CNC router, and possibly laser too. But you know, I did this project solely for a teaching aid, then for people to be able to, everybody could afford, you know, whatever age, to have a CNC router or laser and start to learn to use it. So that's how this came about. But still people, you know, requesting that I do a more substantial build, because I built the CNC router and I built a CNC lathe, as you know. So yes, I'm seriously going to do something about it, and we're going to come into the, I suppose, the 21st century as well. As regards to Mark III. Now, Mark III is a brilliant program. It's been around for about 17, 18 years, maybe a little longer. And it's still good. But as I think everybody knows, it's a 32-bit based program. And of course you can't, well, yeah, I suppose you can buy new 32-bit based computers still if you order direct from China. I don't know of anybody else that is actually producing them. And of course it would be a no-name brand, but you know, I mean, they're still reasonable, I suppose. And they work. So I thought what I would do would be I would make a new, design and build a new CNC router. Now, of course, that's quite an expensive job, really, even doing it yourself. Now, I plan over a 2-year period to make 2. I plan on making about a 2 foot by 2 foot, or maybe a little smaller. Maybe, let's see, 24 inches. Actually, probably 18 inches by 18 inches, which is 500 by 500. Okay, working area with about a probably between a 120 and a 150 Z height operation. Now, I can go 2 ways with that. I can either go a very highly specified or high power output NEMA 17, which these are NEMA 17s. I mean, I can actually get them. That puts out about, I think they're encroaching on nearly 2 Newton meters, which for a small motor, actually, they're about twice the length of these. So they're about 80 millimeters long. But of course, you're doing it on a 5mm shaft, and you don't need that much torque really for just moving the head around. Where that peak torque comes in is where you want to stop and then alter a direction quickly. That's when that peak torque comes in for just a millisecond. It'll probably be okay. And but I could actually go the extra mile and go either NEMA 23s or NEMA 24s. There's not much difference between NEMA 23 and NEMA 24. There's slightly more torque in a NEMA 24. Now I use those on the lathe, and I use NEMA 23s on the mill. And quite honestly, in use, there's no difference between them. But I cutting a long story short, I could go on all day here. I plan on having twin screws in the Y axis. In other words, two motors, one either side, twin screws. So I may be able to use these high-powered NEMA 17s. Not quite sure yet. Because it all comes down, I suppose, to the weight of the spindle that I'm going to use. I'm thinking of 800 watts or something like that for the spindle. So that's going to be the small one. Oh, it's all going to be made of probably some, I haven't designed it yet. This is just the first thoughts. Probably 80 by 40 or something like that. Extrusion, and probably something a little bit heavier for the gantry. And in the background, I'm trying to keep the cost down. Like I may use linear round rails instead of linear square rails. And quite honestly, when you're talking about CNC routers, of a small nature, there's no real difference between linear square rails and linear round rails. The linear round rails are still supported. In other words, they have an aluminium rail underneath them which supports them. They don't flex. So in any direction. And they're about half the cost. So, I can reduce costs there. One big thing that I'm going to do, and I've got it here already. Two things actually. I've had this for a little while. This, you probably, if you've had anything to do with CNC machines, you will know what a smooth stepper is. And they're different, totally different from breakout board. This is a USB Mark 4. I don't know whether you pick that up. You might be able to pick that up on there. Just here. A lot of it's in Chinese, I think. Yep. This is a Mark 4 smooth stepper from well, there's the name there. Yeah, I don't think you can say it. It's just lettering. And I use this company a lot actually for electronics or my pendants. All this company. I don't have any real special relationship with them. I'm not sort of. I don't get any benefit out of it at all. Maybe one day I will. But yeah, so Mark 4. So the new machine that I'm going to design and make is going to be operating with Mach 4. The only drawback with Mach 4 is that, unlike Mach 3, you can only... good thing about it, Windows 10 based, 64-bit. Bad thing, you for a $200 US license, that license code is actually part of the computer motherboard coding. Every computer has an address, okay, its own personal address to that motherboard, and the license key is linked to that. However, you are allowed to have a second computer, all right, but I think you have to apply for it. You're allowed to have the Mach 4 program on 2 computers that you own. That's it. Won't work on any other computers. There's very, very few pendants that operate with Mach 4. I mean, because I don't know why things are a little slow coming along, but I mean, you can get pendants, but they're blooming expensive. You know, they're like they're over $200. So what I plan on doing, and I've already got one, just I start to collect things, you know, months and months, 6 months, 12 months in advance of doing a project. And I have a Bluetooth small keyboard and mouse, obviously, so I can, if I wish, walk around with the keyboard in my hand or stick it onto something so I can, you know, use it sort of as a pendant, which I have done. I do with, or I have done in the past. That's my German Shepherd. So that's sort of that. I don't know when I will be starting this, because there's a lot of sort of design work, and with COVID and everything, it could be 3 months before I, get the stepper motors and drivers and what have you here. I don't know. It's been a while since I've sort of. The last thing I ordered was limit switches. They still haven't arrived. That's been, I think, 3 weeks. So COVID has sort of messed up a lot for everybody, but certainly me. So that will be the first. I think the first stage. I'm not really sure. Then the second machine that I'm going to be building. Incidentally, all the plans and all the information will be available for patrons, and I think for these builds for patrons $5 and up. Maybe. And of course, all the drawings and all the information about all the parts will be available on Patreon. Second machine. I plan to build my own design, slightly. This is how it comes about. I've got a 6012, and everything that you've seen me make in my workshop has never been, well, only two projects come to mind. Two or three projects come to mind where I've used anywhere near the length of a bed. All my work is really all this sort of stuff like this. I mean, that's one of the biggest ones. That's a 600 by 600, nearly 600 by 600. I did a dragon as well. That was 600 by 900. And I've had some boards in there that I've sort of planed off, but all my work really is small stuff. It's all this small, stuff. But I have found that I've wanted something wider than 600. So what I plan to do is make my own, I've designed my own 1 meter by 1 meter, which is just over 36 inches, I think. What is it? I've got to get a ruler to find out. It's actually 3 foot 3.5. So 3 foot 3.5 for those of you who are in Imperial. 3 foot 3.5 by 3 foot 3.5 by probably 10 inches in Z, that's 10 inches. And I plan to make it out of, like a space age design. Very, very rigid, but basically 95% aluminium. It's easy to handle, and you can go to the aluminium merchants and tell them to cut what lengths you want, and they will cut them exactly, within 0.5 millimeter, which is fine for a CNC router. You don't have to go to sort of 2,000. You just don't have to do it. So yes, now on that one, again, twin drives, twin screws on the y-axis, because that, you do need the grunt there. And I may go high output NEMA 24s, or it may be a mixture of NEMA 24s and NEMA 34s, the big boys. Although they start to get a bit weighty, and if you've got those running the Z, it's a lot to stop and pull back, sort of quickly. And the same, if you're on the X, it's a lot to move. It really loads the gantry up, with weight. But if you can, manage with a NEMA 24, which the ones I got there are 475 inches of holding torque, which is quite honestly more than I can actually twist with my hand. You wouldn't hold it. Although I do have NEMA 34s on my big CNC router, and I've never actually used the full potential of them, ever. It's still a good idea to have them on. You've got you've got them there, but and you've got the torque there. But I think for this one that I'm going to make for hobbyists, or even you would be able to use it commercially too. I think that's what I'm going to use. I haven't really made my mind up for that, but bear in mind this is over a 2-year period too. And actually, to do that, so to fund all this development process, I'm going to sell my 6012 CNC router, which is, you know, a real expensive item. So, yes, you know, the only way I can do it. So, because, you know, we're not talking about a few $100s here. You know, we're talking about a few $1,000, even making it yourself, a decent job. Aluminium is not the cheapest material in the world, but it's probably the best to work with a, you know, a CNC router. I mean, steel's okay for the lower end, but when you come to weld it up, it sort of distorts and goes all over the place. And it's not ideal. I know a lot of people use it. Just, you know, aluminium extrusion. I mean, when I say aluminium extrusion, I don't mean this stuff. This is okay for a little machine, run these little tiny motors, and it's okay to learn with. But if you want a decent machine, well, then you have to go a few stages up the scale. You know, sort of have, you know, 1/4 inch thick walls and the aluminium extrusion, and you know, real heavy duty stuff. Now, the cost of the smaller machine, I'm sort of provisional cost that I'm looking at is probably, I'm trying to get it under $1,000, which isn't bad. I mean, if you go and order a decent 60/40, I say decent 60/40, it's going to, by the time you get it home, it's going to cost you more than $3,000, because there's a lot of hidden costs. And those hidden costs, of course, there's duty, and especially now with COVID, you know, the Americans, the English, Germans, and Australians are all putting tariffs on stuff coming out of China. So, you know, if you see a machine advertised for $2,000, it's, by the time you get it in to your country, it's going to cost you nearly twice that. You know? So, anyway, I am trying to get the build of the small machine under $1,000. And we're talking US here, not Australia. And, you know, that's really doable. The larger machine, I am, you know, probably, I can probably make it myself for somewhere between, $2,500 and $3,000, because I shan't be putting cheap stuff in. You know, it will be done properly. I try and do everything properly. So, yeah, somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000. But to get a machine of that caliber imported is probably going to cost you, you know, somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000. So, there you go. That's the plans for the next 2 years. And, you know, I'd just like to let you know. And if you've got any thoughts, if you would like to, you know, there will be other stuff in between. I haven't forgot about wood turning. And of course I'll be doing jobs around the place here, and CNC stuff and laser stuff. but mainstream design work and making will be these two machines, and both machines will be Mac 4. And that's no problem. I mean, you know, I can have 3 or 4 machines, 5 machines, doesn't matter, in here operating Mac 4. What I plan to do is, I very rarely run 2 machines at the same time. Very, very rare. I might have the CNC router running in the background and I'll be doing a job on a laser. But I seldom have the mill and the router, because you've got to really keep an eye on them or an ear out for them, you know, to see what's going on. So what I plan to do is just have, I don't think I can manage it with one single plug. It'll just be sort of like a plug for each axis and one for the spindle, and you know, sort of unplug it at the back of the control box, move the control box to another machine, just plug that machine into it, and run that with the same, just have one control box, as in, you know, the electronics, and just have the cabling plugged into that for a different machine. So, you know, you can work it that way. Something else before I go to is I plan on opening up a type of library on Patreon, in my Patreon pages, of grayscale images. So what I intend to do is I will run these through my programs and clean them up for you to use. And in some cases I can convert them to STL files for you, if you know, that might be a bit easier, but that will be later on in the year. So that's something else that's coming along. If there's something specific that any of you would like, you know, like the eagle here, or the prancing horse, the Ferrari horse, or what else have we got? I did see Pegasus here too somewhere. But there's quite a few of them. I mean, these are readily available on the internet, if you know where to look. So that, you know, if they're on the internet, you can use them. You know, they're published for, you know, sort of open domain. So, yeah, it's a nice, nice one there. I've done that eagle. Another one of them there. That comes out really well. So yeah, that's what I intend to do. Obviously, you know, this is all going to take time, and but I will get around to doing it, and I will start it in the very near future. So there we are. Lot happening this coming 2 years now. I like to have a 2-year plan rather than, you know, a 6-month or, you know, a 1 year. It gives me plenty of time to actually get things in place. So anyway, this video is going on a little bit now, so again, thank you for being patrons, and you know, thank you for being there and supporting the channel, and I absolutely really appreciate it. So I better get on with setting this up and videoing this next, where I'm actually going to carve this little devil here into that nice piece of wood there. It's actually a piece of mahogany. It's the same mahogany that I made that frame. Still haven't decided what I'm going to put in the middle of it yet. Probably be make a mirror out of it, you know. Yeah, but this beautiful wood. Beautiful wood. Okay, till next time. Bye for now.